we are going to move on here and leave the NFL alone for right now. And when we are going to move on to the boxing, okay? Move to the boxing, all right? Boxing right here. We got a lot of boxing content today because obviously it's fight week. But before we get there, we got to talk about Shakur Stevenson. It's the biggest topic in boxing right now, and we might as well break it down right now. So why is it so hard for Shakur Stevenson to get a big fight, Zay? Why?
That's a great question, and I want to be able to answer this thoroughly, but I don't have the answers fully on why there are no big fights for Shakur Stevenson. But right now, I want to say it's because of the opponents he's looking at. You're looking at Isaac Cruz, you're looking at Frank Martin, you're looking at guys. Shakur Stevenson is still up and coming himself. He's trying to fight the other up and comers. It's not going to work like that. Frank Martin is being advertised as one of the other big boxers that's up and coming. He's not on the same tier of Shakur Stevenson, but he's damn near close in terms of what boxing and the promotion want to propel Frank Martin to be. And I think Shakur Stevenson needs to look at the top guys, the top dogs in this division. I know Devin Haney been running, he's running to a division higher. Ryan Garcia ran to a division higher. Tank, we don't know what the discussion is between a Tank fight or a mega fight between him and Tank. So right now, it's just like the big fights are really tough. Even Lomachenko, we don't know if Lomachenko wants to fight Shakur Stevenson or not. That's that for me. I think that's the biggest fight that needs to be happen between for Shakur Stevenson, him or Tank. But it seems like a lot of guys are just not up for the challenge. They don't want to fight Shakur Stevenson because it could mean the ending of rather their streak, their belts, whatever image that they're painting themselves to be with this undefeated record. It means that it could come to an end when fighting Shakur Stevenson. So it seems like a lot of people are trying to run away from Shakur because they know he is the next big thing in boxing. So I think that's why he hasn't gotten a big fight yet, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think for me, right? And I'm gonna talk my way into this. We know Shakur is one of the best fighters at 135, if not the best. Between him and Tank, obviously. We know Tank is a KO artist, right? He knocks people out. He send them on, reels on Instagram, make them memes. But we also know that nobody defines the hit and not get hit mentality like Shakur Stevenson with his reflexes, his ability to control the distance with his jab, his upper body movement, right? He can hit you, but can you hit him? It's very hard. Hit and not get hit. And he defines that. And I don't think there's no fighter that defines that as much as him since the days of Floyd Mayweather. And that's high praise right there. Okay. Now, with that being said, it comes with risk. Fighting a guy like that comes with risk. Okay. It's risk on both sides because when you fight like that and you're not a name, guys ain't going to be lining up to fight you. It's just the reality of the situation. But there's been a lot of splits going on in boxing right now in regards to the Frank Martin situation in Shakur. The boxing world is split because obviously that was a fight that was supposed to go down verbally. They committed to the fight, and then Frank Martin pulled out that fight. Now, there's a lot of people that's saying he's a duck. He's ducking just like Loma did. Okay, Loma said no mas. Okay, Isaac Cruz said no mas. Frank Wright is saying the same thing. No, I said Frank Wright. Frank Martin is saying the same thing. No mas, right? And then there's people saying that it's the money, right? But the bottom line here, and I debated my guy Kenny on this for like the last 2-3 weeks. Me and Kenny been going back and forth. And my guy Kenny has some good points, but I'm not going to take a side here. I'm just going to keep things rational. The bottom line is, okay, and this is facts, that this fight collapsed with Frank Martin and Shakur Stevenson because of money. That's the evidence we have. Because if we go back and we, kind of, look at the situation, Shakur came out and said that Martin's purse demands was very unreasonable. He said it out of his own mouth. And Martin said that he initially agreed to fight Shakur verbally. However, after knowing the money involved, he was like, nah, it's not a financially lucrative fight. So clearly, we should put two and two together and say, yeah, it's not really a duck, it's money. Now, obviously, some people are going to, look beyond that and say, well, you're trying to price yourself out. So you are ducking. Nah, we don't have the evidence to say that. We just don't. Right? If it's money, it's money. The business of boxing is a real thing. So, yeah, we can run off with a hypothesis that, Frank Martin is trying to outprice himself out purposely, so he's ducking Shakur. Yeah, but we have no evidence to back that up. What we do know is that money, clearly from Shakur's mouth, clearly from Frank Martin's mouth, is a big thing. Because when you look on the other side, and we talk about Haney, okay, who that fight obviously didn't happen. Haney sent him a contract where he took 25% of the split. He came out and said, I have the quote here. He came out and said, I'm not worth that money. Keep it real, big bro, or little bro, whatever. So clearly, money has a lot to do. Once again, you can try to run off with the hypothesis that Devin Haney is lowballing Shakur Stevenson purposely. But really, what has Shakur Stevenson accomplished in boxing right now to have any leverage here? He has no belt. He hasn't fought on pay-per-view. So there is reasonable cause, if you know the sport of boxing, to lowball somebody. Sometimes people lowball you because you have beef with that person. It's a sign of disrespect, right? Wilder and what's the dude, AJ, a couple years ago, AJ lowballed Wilder too. Like, nah, I'm just lowball you, right? Maybe it wasn't him ducking, maybe it was him ducking. I tend to believe that AJ ducked Wilder, but it was also a sign of disrespect. People lowball you as a sign of disrespect. You ain't worked that. You ain't sold out nothing. So Haney and Shakur, we know they have beef. So clearly, you can say that Haney was like, I'm going to disrespect you, man. Take that 25% or leave it. But either way, it's money. And I'm not saying that Shakur is in the wrong here by any means. Like I said, I picked a side, when I was debating my guy, but I came to be mutual and try to be rational here. I'm not saying it's his fault because he is worth more than Frank Martin to me. Right? I don't think it should be 50-50. I'm not sure what was the initial offer, but I don't think 50-50 is, Frank Martin. He's about that 50-50 with Shakur. I don't believe that Shakur should be getting 20 when Devin Haney can't sell out a daggone summer camp, okay, to his fight, right? But he does have 3 other belts, number one. And if guys are not lining up to fight you, then you're going to have to sacrifice your purse. Yep. You have to calm the ego. Whether or not it's reasonable to think that that's what you're worth, because we know as fighters, we see the eye test. You should be worth every penny. Mm-hmm. But boxing don't work like that. Boxing is about sales. It's about marketing. It's about who you can pack in the seats. It's about pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. So guys are not lining up to fight you. Guys are lining up to be in line for their meal ticket, which is Gervonta Davis. Every weight division, and I'm about to end off here. Mm-hmm. Every weight division has a meal ticket. Well, almost every weight division, right? At 135, it's Tank. At 147, it's Terrence Crawford. No, excuse me. It's Errol Spence. He was a meal ticket prior to him losing to Terrence Crawford. At 168, it's Canelo Alvarez. And guys are trying to be in the sweepstakes for these guys. So they're not going to take risky fights that they're going to lose and spoil that payday. They're going to be in line. Haney just moved up and left 3 belts behind. Mm-hmm. So maybe Frank Martin is trying to align himself with an opportunity to be the mandatory to fight Gervonta Davis. Guys are in that sweepstakes and trying to line themselves up to fight the Tanks of the world, the Canelos of the world, right? That's why guys at 168 wasn't fighting until Plant and Benavidez was like, listen, man, I need to fight you, but Benavidez, because I lost to Canelo. That's my only shot to get it back. And David Benavidez is like, listen, I need to get the Canelo fight. Let's do it. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
That's an interesting take in terms of, why guys are not finding Shakur Stevenson. And think about it in that sense that when Haney left, all those belts are kind of left with him. I mean, they didn't leave with him. They kind of stood behind. I don't know if because there was like a phrase that the boxing said. It was he's on it was like a recess or something like that, or like it was something in terms of if he wants to come after he fights Progress, he could come back and still have the belts. It was something in terms of that was said in terms of language. I just got to remember exactly what it was. But, it's interesting because a lot of guys, like you stated, are looking for the big payday. And if there's Shakur Stevenson, the number is not there with Shakur. And there's an issue in terms of what the number can be when fighting Shakur in terms of negotiations. Then that's the issue. Frank Martin and Shakur Stevenson was set. They already discussed dates. They were discussing dates. And then Frank Martin pulled out. He was like, well, if I'm not getting a payday, why would I want to fight you? I'm not going to fight for what I've been making. I'm not going to fight just to put on a showing and then not get that push the fight for against Davis or whatever. I think Isaac Cruz, he when he stepped in last minute to fight Gervonta Davis, his stock rose from that point because now he's getting big fights. Now, I don't know if Frank Martin wants to continue following that suit because what if he fights Shakur Stevenson and it's a landslide and then he gets washed out the building? That's something that devalues his devalues himself, but then also it puts him in a place where the boxing's not going to back him for big fights and big paydays. So, that's something that people need to look out for in terms of when discussing why Shakur is being ducked or why guys don't want to fight him. Because there's a good conversation where what's the definition of a guy ducking and a guy not getting or looking out for his big payday? Is it the same thing? Is it different? Like, how do we, as boxing,
how do we decipher? Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. Good point. And I think when you talk about Loma, let's look at it from this perspective, right? Because Loma don't strike me as a duck. Loma is one of the greatest of all time. Okay. And, the opportunity was right. He fought for the belts. He fought Haney, right? Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people picked him to beat Haney, but he fought him because it was worth something. Mm-hmm. The belts, right? Something that he should have had if he didn't have to enlist in the army and he would have fought Kambosos. So let's look at him. He lost, even though he won, right? I'm not going to allow a record to tell me who lost and won when I clearly saw the fight and who won. Yeah. And that was Lomachenko. But, based on the record and the stat sheet or whatever, he lost. Okay, cool. From a boxing business standpoint, does it make sense to fight Shakur after you just lost? When clearly boxing is trying to run you up out of there because they didn't give you a decision that half of the boxing community, if not a quarter, thought you won. Mm-hmm. The judges is ready to run you up out of there, try to make the new and crown the new, right? We need to put money behind Devin Haney now because you owed. So does it make sense from a financial and business perspective to fight a dangerous Shakur Stevenson when you couldn't even get a decision against Haney? What the hell you think is going to happen against Shakur? So no, it's not good business. So yeah, is he ducking? How you decipher that? Boxing is a business. Yep. And if I was managing Loma, we're not fighting Shakur. We need to get back in position because maybe we could get a tag fight. Who knows? Yep. So if you look at Isaac Cruz now, who is also rumored to be ducking Shakur Stevenson. Okay, check this out. Calvin Ford, who's the trainer of Gervonta Davis, has publicly stated that we are looking to do the Cruz rematch. Yep. So what idiot think that he should fight Shakur Stevenson and risk losing when he could be getting another payday against Tank? What idiot? Let me know that. My guy throw the wildest shots, the overhand right, throw the wildest shots. That's Isaac Cruz, bro. Okay, so realistically, do we think he could be Shakur Stevenson? Do we think he could be Tank? No, but he's going for the payday. Mm-hmm. So from a business perspective, does that make any sense? No. So when you look at everything, it's about the business, okay, and the risk and reward. And how you decipher ducking and the boxing business is up for opinion. And the last point that I would say as we segue here, because I think this is a good segue to the next topic, is it's the same thing with Canelo and guys trying to be in line to fight Canelo. And you have to realize, too, similar to Tank being a mill ticket and similar to Canelo being a mill ticket, you have guys in other weight divisions who is willing to move down or move up to fight these guys, not only guys that are in line in the same weight class. So, for example, there's guys at 140 that want to fight Tank, right? Mario Barrios, he fought Tank, right? He moved up to fight, Mario Barrios, right? You got guys like Charlo, who's moving up 2 weight divisions to fight Canelo. When there's guys at 168 and 175 that wants to fight Canelo and cash in that mill ticket.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, or leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.